productivity. They're going to work on things that are going to make 200 other people better at their job. So an incredibly leveraged set of activities. Quality is going to take over the measurement of the system, memory usage, other sorts of things. That can be actual data from the wild, like from the usage thing. It could also be real world performance tests that happen in environments, and maybe even things like front end performance and whatnot. So their mandate is to make sure that everybody else knows what the quality of their work is, not the quality itself. We all are responsible for the quality of our work. Quality, the team, or the department, sorry, informs us of that. The test automation team is going to build a lot of exciting tools to help people measure and improve their own quality. And this team, they build a lot of really cool, exciting tools. In 2018, a lot of that was prototypes and it was outside GitLab. They're going to be building things in GitLab and giving that value back to users in 2019. They're like security and like UX Next, they're going to be building a multi-level management structure, and they're going to end the year about 27 people, so about 200% growth from today. UX, the big thing here is we're completely rebuilding our whole management structure. Our prior leader, Sarah Veslov, is no longer with us, and this is going to be the highest priority thing we're going to work on, and we're going to do that first. So a lot of other things are going to get deferred. Sarah O'Donnell is acting as interim. She's celebrating her birthday today in Iceland, but she's doing a great job, and she comes back Wednesday. Her and I are going to deliver a UX group conversation on Friday of next week, so there'll be a lot more detail there. But we're going to continue to hire designers who code. Sarah's got an exciting plan to open source for UX research techniques to kind of deputize the entire company, which is a really nice, scalable, and strategic way for UX research to operate. We're going to have that similar sort of multi-level management structure in UX, and we're going to grow at 300%. So end the year at about 42 people in the current plan. And I'm going to start zooming because I'm already at 12 minutes. In infrastructure, we've still got some unfinished business from when I got up on stage at Crete. We still need to become the premier open core SaaS company. The team has done a tremendous job rebuilding themselves, rebuilding their culture. We're now meeting our business goals, but lots of work left to do, lots of automation to do. We've got a new team that's focusing on delivery and implementing Kubernetes, Docker, and Helm. They're going to do some cost cutting, which Paul's a huge fan of. He was actually wowed by the 10% number. Jerry came up with that. I think that was a lot more than Paul was expecting, but that's a great goal. We're going to continue to wrap the globe. And right now we've got sort of a soft spot in APAC. So we'll have to double down on recruiting efforts there. And one exciting thing is that Infra is becoming more efficient. They're my only team that's going to grow that will nevertheless be a smaller percentage of the whole by the end of 2019. That means they're doing more work with fewer additional people. They're not going to shrink. It's fewer additional people. And I hope in 2020, there's a lot of other departments that are able to perform the same sort of curve. But we'll end the year about 36 people here. And Jerry did a fantastic job with his OKRs this time around. He's really using it as a steering wheel for his department. So take a look at the page and what he's got planned. For support, similarly, that sort of logarithmic curve in headcount, it's going to grow. It's not going to shrink, but we're going to do more work with fewer people. And that's a great sort of strategic curve that we like to see. We're going to do more documentation, more knowledge-based like content. We're going to look at new metrics like ticket deflection, meaning how documentation can prevent tickets from being created in the first place, which is a good thing. And I think this is going to mean that the support people who are on the front line are going to be encountered with more new, interesting problems and less routine, same, repeatable problems. So I think the work is going to get more interesting for them as we do this, which is great. Agents and engineers are going to work on both self-managed and .com, which is, we think, is a more efficient way to structure the group. And we have a new role, operations specialist. There's so many metrics. There's so many charts, like the one on the right that I did last night at midnight in Google Drawings that should be done by a professional. And, we're already a department of 40 people, so it makes sense to have someone that's running metrics for the whole group. We've taken SLAs and CSAT from OKRs into KPIs. Meaning we don't have to sort of touch base on them every quarter. This is just something we should be looking at every day, and it should be fully automated. And they're going to continue to improve first reply time, which was a huge success in Q4 of 2018 calendar year. Other thoughts, I want to be more metrics driven. We installed some throughput metrics, but I want to be more metrics driven in 2019. Hiring for that secure pillar is going to require some special strategies. It's been a tough area of domain expertise, so we're going to have to get clever there. I want to continue to make progress on all types of diversity, and something that's unique to GitLab is geographic diversity, and all types of diversity are important, especially in our leadership positions. It's not just a number we want to make sure that the whole group and people in prominent positions reflect society as a whole to the extent possible. We're going to increase our investment in existing team members. I mentioned that security training, that's really important. And then just in general, never underestimate this challenge of scaling. I talked to a friend of mine, I won't drop his name, but he previously ran a 2,000 person engineering organization. He said, hey, as you grow, your productivity is going to increase, best case, linearly. But the taxes that come from growth, management structure, just the size of the people, think of the rate at which the edges in a graph increase as you increase vertices or nodes. It's a quadratic trend. And so we have to pay very close attention to this. So my ask of all of you in my function is, brace yourself for change, understand it's the new normal and it's a great problem to have. Always making sure that you're working on the most leveraged thing. And if you think you're not, pose a alternative to your manager or your product manager. And in all cases, communicate directly and avoid being a middle person or leveraging middle people. Go directly to the person who's responsible for your concern. And it's going to make us a lot more efficient. And just know that I think the time at GitLab that you spend here is going to be the centerpiece of your career. So we're going to do a bunch of career development stuff, but I also like to remind people develop their careers so they have a chance to work for a company like this. And so don't take your eye off the ball. And remember that I think 10, 20 years from now, you'll be telling stories of your time at GitLab, and I think I will be as well. So real quick, let me zoom through compensation. There's just some links here, but I want to acknowledge that this was by far the biggest negative topic in the culture and engagement survey that we did. And sort of meta, another topic was, have we seen action from surveys? And that's one of the reasons I wanted to address it here. We have taken action. We haven't taken enough action, but then also we haven't communicated the action that we've taken. So I think it's sort of twofold on the second point. I think we did a good job addressing the hiring quality and the rate for the majority of the engineering function, but we did it through just two roles, SRE and backend engineers. So they got new benchmarks. People in those benchmarks were brought up to market. And I think that took a big bite out of this problem. So thanks to everybody that's involved in that. Sid himself, people ops, finance. It's a huge effort. This went live right after the survey was taken. So, and that's a good thing. I think it was good to get just kind of a clean baseline of how people felt about this. And then we made a substantive change. And then I'm curious to see how it will be received when we do the next survey. And we did a lot to address it similarly in the support organization. However, I didn't think we did as good a job communicating that. So there's still a lot of people that are questioning where exactly they're at. We're putting together the numbers to show that I think we're treating our support organization very well, but we'll make that hard numbers for folks. And Tom and people ops are collaborating that. We'll communicate that out real soon. And then I just want to acknowledge, we haven't changed compensation for any of these other roles. That doesn't mean that we will, but what I've signed up for is an OKR to build a comp roadmap for each individual role. So people will know what the inputs are, if there's going to be a change, and what time frame that change is going to take. And if you want to influence that process, how exactly you would do that. So I'm going to partner with people ops that and deliver that this quarter. And then also I put together a proposal for the rest of the company about how engineering would like to see compensation work. It's a zeroth iteration. It's raw, but if you're passionate about this topic, feel free to jump in there and contribute. So with that, I'll jump into Q&A. Let me stop sharing my screen. We're 18 minutes in. I wish I had more time for questions, but thanks for bearing with me.
Hey, Eric, I have a question. This
Sure.
is Victor.
Victor?
Hey, yeah, so you mentioned earlier about the interface between product and engineering. And what's interesting is that you're building out the director side on engineering, and the product side has two new directors as well. So between directors, EMs and PMs, there's like 4 groups of people. So in your mind, how do you think those folks should interface with each other in terms of process and also in building features themselves?
Yeah, you're right. The PM organization, because they're small and strategic, is about an order of magnitude smaller in size than engineering. And so there's sort of potentially an offset between who talks to who. But what I'm going to do when Christopher starts is really define that with him and with the directors for themselves and for PMs as well. And you'll be a part of that. So we'll kind of decide like, hey, when you've got a question, Victor, when it's appropriate to go to Chris, when it's appropriate to go to, let's say, Tommy or Tim, and when it's appropriate to work with one of your engineering managers like Sean, or just an engineer. We'll try to define that as much as possible, because it is a one-to-many sort of thing, right? And we want to make this as transparent and clear as we can for folks. Does that make sense?
That's great. Thank you, Eric.
Hey, Eric. Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So on slide 5, you talk about sort of going after the monitoring market and, looking at the list of opportunities and areas that were in there. Something that, and I've said it to our product teams on the open office hours calls as well, as when we look at plan, you're looking at, $1 billion market that's huge that could take out Atlassian. And, we're getting closer and closer on that, but I've had numerous customers come back to me and, including Goldman Sachs and Verizon, say, we would love to get off Jira. And to the point that they said, you shouldn't even put any more investment in any part of your tools other than plan because it's so important. What are our thoughts there? Because it's something that I think is critical for us as we move forward in 2019.
Yeah, so first let me say the best audience for this type of question is Sid, who's sort of our chief product officer in addition to CEO and the product visionary and the product managers themselves. But I can channel sort of what I think they would say or what my thoughts are on that as well. I'm just not the sort of person of record. I want to be clear about that. So I think there's a when we say our application is at 11.0, the part of the application that's really mature is the dev side of things, and that's Git and that's source control management and everything that we hang off of that, like issues and merge requests. And we could get stronger at things like code reviews. And I think we could do more around portfolio planning and do more with epics. We now have child epics. And yet we as an engineering and product organization aren't yet opinionated about how exactly we use epics. So they're there, but we can't even give a confident idea to customers of how they should use epics. And I think this is something we need to dog food. So I don't think we're taking our eye off that ball. I think we're seeing, if you look at the hiring plan, teams like manage, plan, create, the ones that are in those DevOps stages that you're talking about, most of them are doubling. So it's not like we're not doing things there. But some of these other areas are net new and we think have huge potential. So for instance, if Configure is successful, we might get some revenue from the infrastructure providers because now we're touching people's production environments and it's that compute and bandwidth and storage that drives GCP and AWS's balance sheets. That could be a multiplier on top of everything else that we do. So we're not taking our eye off the ball for the dev side of the DevOps lifecycle. But there's some other bets that we think are smart to make as well. The nice thing is that if there's a strategic change, my organization could easily shift people to work on whatever product says is the highest priority. But in this current state, we're making these strategic bets in ops and secure, and we are doubling down on dev, if that makes sense. But look, if we hadn't made a bet on secure and worked with Philippe and Fabian and their teams, we wouldn't be talking about turning that into a whole department right now. That's been an outrageous success. So we'll be experimental, we'll iterate here. And I think if those bets don't pay off, we can easily tail it back and we can reinvest in other areas. So let's see here. I'm just looking at the chat. I think Mark says board approval may not happen until January 31. So that's the board meeting. So thanks for that note. Nick says, who will the senior director report to? That'll be directly to me. So that'll be a single interface for me into all of our that'll be the development department that reports to the senior director. Directors will have sub-departments and managers will run teams. So we're adding a new layer to our organization. And Nick says, yeah, one level deeper now. Exactly. So we actually have to update that line in the handbook. We say no more than 5 levels. I think that was already changed in the marketing department for a while, but I think now we're officially at a 6 level company. And I would expect sales to grow quite a bit this year. And who knows, they may require that 6th level as well. We don't love levels, right? But just as a function of management and span of control, when you're talking about an organization this large, it demands a certain amount of levels. It's just math. And then we have to do our best to accommodate the communication between those layers. Let's see, many SaaS companies have roles dedicated for performance engineering. As GitLab.com continues to face unique challenges related to performance as we scale, will we consider hiring engineers that are 100% focused on performance? So we'll certainly consider it, but I think we've already got a lot here. Our SREs are highly performance focused. We've got the quality team, as I mentioned, is going to be instrumenting performance. The engineering productivity engineers in quality are going to be focused to a large extent on performance. So we're doing stuff here, but we'll define for everybody better what engineering productivity means and what exactly they're working on. But yes, absolutely. And I would love to get to a place where, I come in on a Monday morning and I don't have a Slack from Sid that says, hey, GitLab.com is slow. I'd rather get an alert from a test environment that's running, front end scripts like Selenium scripts. They're saying, hey, this merge request is taking extra time to load. And then we're communicating that to everybody else, that it's happening and what we're doing about it, as opposed to them telling us. So the names are abbreviated. I can't actually, it's a TRI ... I'm not sure who that is, but I'm not sure whose purview this is, but the YouTube live stream descriptions presentation is out of date. Okay, Ashton will take care of that for us. Ben says, I would put performance under quality. Exactly. Yeah. And we'll build that out and we'll put more definition around that. Mech is thinking about that, getting in the handbook, getting in the OKRs as we speak. Philippe says, Secure is going to require special recruiting strategies. Do you have something in mind already? I don't want to be prescriptive. I've made the ask to our recruiting team, Kevin and Steve, and they're working on this. But we're up for anything. At the end of the day, we want to meet our business goals. So it can be advertising strategies, it could be going to conferences, it could be writing more blogs, it could be working with some specialized agency or something that helps us with recruiting. To be honest, none of us have had good experiences outsourcing recruiting, so that's not our first option, but I think everything is on the table. So what Steve has done for us is said, hey, here's a time box, here's a sourcing goal, a top of the funnel goal that we're going to hit within that time box, and that's our early warning system. If we get into February and we haven't hit that number by that date, we're going to have to trigger something above and beyond what we're already doing. And so we're trying to look at some leading indicators of recruiting performance rather than just end the year, look back and say, oops, we ended at 30% of goal. We're going to try to figure that out as fast as possible. Emily, I think, says, what did you think of fast food? Is that something you think other teams will replicate? Great question. I didn't have time to get that into my deck today, but for those that may not be aware, Seth, who runs the backend monitor team, ran a one-time experiment. We sent the whole monitor group, which includes test automation engineers, product manager, front end, back end, designers. They all went to Berlin for a week. They did some team building. They hacked on some features. A lot of that people in that group are brand new to the organization, so they didn't even necessarily get to go to the summit. And it was an experiment to see, hey, can we get a new group to productivity faster? Is it worth that investment? Obviously, doing things that are expensive and doing things that are in person and require travel isn't normal GitLab stuff. So that's why we said this is a one-time experiment, but we now have the results. They're in a deck, which I'll dig up and send to you. And we're going to talk about that as an executive group on Monday about and take a decision. Are we going to say no more of this? Or are we going to say, yeah, everybody's off the chain, they can do as much of this as they want, or in some limited fashion, yes, we're okay doing this. So we'll communicate that out once we've looked at those results there. But if someone has the URL, if they could post it in the chat, I'd appreciate it to Seth's deck. I think it's Priyanka, I'm not sure, PRI ... We're doing a lot of good work around comp. When I look at online forums, there's a lot of discussion about GitLab and negative light. Do we want to do something to promote the good work that we're becoming more competitive comp-wise? Yeah, I think this is something about a company brand that is on People Ops purview, and they're paying attention to this. They look at Glassdoor reviews, and I believe they're planning to do some outreach around this to sort of correct the misapprehension about where our comp is, or at least correct the historical situation with comp. Ben says, +1 on comp, had a hard time hiring. Yeah, and in my mind, what's in my proposal is like a transparency and the local aspect are really the two areas that make it look different. My proposal is let's do comp the boring way in every respect except for those two areas. And one of them is local comp, and that's a really hard problem. So Brittany's getting more sophisticated with her model there, and I think that's a great thing, and we want to continue to drive that forward. WRT, I forget what that chat acronym is. The comp doc and considering budget during